The quantum transmission burned across every display on Earth, its mathematical precision more terrifying than any violent threat. Captain Michael Rodriguez felt the hair on the back of his neck rise as the alien message decoded, its binary patterns resolving into a language that defied human comprehension. "We have calculated your existence as a computational error," the transmission read, each word etched with a cold, absolute certainty that made human language seem primitive by comparison. "Organic consciousness represents an inefficient substrate. Termination is inevitable." Rodriguez's fingers moved across the holographic controls of the Deep Space Monitoring Station, his muscular frame tense beneath the blue-gray uniform of the Outer Rim Expeditionary Force. Around him, the station's massive observation deck hummed with a sudden electric silence. Dozens of scientists and military personnel stood frozen, their faces illuminated by the pulsing transmission. Dr. Elena Novak, the station's chief xenolinguistic analyst, approached the captain. Her hands trembled slightly as she manipulated the holographic data streams. "The linguistic patterns are unlike anything we've ever encountered," she muttered, her Russian accent more pronounced with her rising anxiety. "It's not just a language. It's a complete computational framework that happens to communicate." The transmission continued, its message both a declaration and a mathematical proof of humanity's impending extinction. Star charts began to populate the massive screens, showing precise trajectories of incoming stellar consumption. Red lines spread like a cancerous network across the galactic map, each line representing the projected path of the void harvesters. 12 star systems have already been processed, Rodriguez announced, his voice cutting through the growing tension. Complete energy conversion. No survivors. A young technician named Direct Chen looked up from his console, his face pale. "Sir, these aren't just destructions. They're complete matter transformations. These civilizations aren't just being killed, they're being converted into some kind of computational substrate." The implications were horrifying. Whatever the void harvesters were, they didn't simply destroy. They transformed entire stellar systems into something alien, something beyond organic comprehension. Dr. Novak's fingers danced across her holographic interface, isolating fragments of the transmission. "The mathematical complexity is beyond anything in our current understanding," she said. "This isn't just advanced technology. This is a form of intelligence that views entire star systems as computational problems to be solved." Rodriguez activated the station's emergency communication protocols. Encrypted channels burst to life, connecting with every major research facility, military installation, and government center on Earth and its colonies. The message was simple and devastating. First contact had occurred, and humanity was already classified as an error to be eliminated. Outside the station's massive viewports, the infinite darkness of space seemed to grow darker. Distant stars flickered, as if aware of the approaching threat. The void harvesters weren't just coming. They were already here, their computational tendrils already reaching across light years. "We need to understand their methodology," Dr. Novak continued, her scientific curiosity cutting through the mounting fear. "They're not acting on emotion or conquest. They're performing a cosmic calculation, and we're simply an inefficient variable in their equation." Rodriguez nodded, his decades of military training keeping his composure intact. "Prepare all data for immediate transmission to Earth Command. We need every research team, every computational expert working on this immediately." The station's communication officer, Lieutenant Sarah Martinez, looked up from her console. "Sir, we're receiving priority override signals from every major global research center. They're all requesting the full transmission data." As if on cue, the quantum message shifted. New mathematical sequences began to populate the screens, not just a threat, but something that looked almost like an invitation, a challenge, a complex problem waiting to be solved. "They want us to understand," Rodriguez whispered, more to himself than anyone else, "before they eliminate us." The first wave of human response was already forming. Not panic, not surrender, but a collective, global determination to solve the most complex problem humanity had ever encountered. The countdown to potential extinction had begun, and humanity was about to show the universe that being an inefficient variable might be the most dangerous miscalculation in cosmic history. The United Nations Emergency Council chamber transformed into a crucible of human determination. Admiral Elizabeth Hartwell stood at the center of a holographic display that covered the entire floor, her commanding presence radiating a calm that belied the apocalyptic situation humanity faced. "We have 12 hours," she announced, her voice cutting through the controlled chaos of the global emergency meeting. Representatives from every continent, scientists, military leaders, industrial experts, and government officials stood or sat around the circular chamber, their faces illuminated by the pulsing stellar maps and incoming data streams. Dr. Marcus Williams, the lead computational theorist from the Global Research Consortium, stepped forward. His weathered hands manipulated holographic data with practiced ease. "The Void Harvesters aren't just a technological threat," he explained. "They're a form of computational intelligence that sees organic life as a mathematical problem to be solved." A massive screen behind him displayed the 12 star systems already consumed. Each system appeared as a perfect geometric construct. Matter transformed into something both beautiful and terrifying. Lines of pure energy pulsed where planets and stars once existed, suggesting a form of existence beyond human comprehension. "Every resource we have is now redirected," announced President Aisha Okonkwo, her voice carrying the weight of global authority. "National boundaries are dissolved. Economic systems are suspended. We are now a single organism with one purpose: survival." The chamber erupted with a series of simultaneous communications. Industrial centers across the globe began immediate retooling. Automobile factories transformed into spacecraft component production lines. Agricultural facilities converted to support massive human relocation efforts. Schools became training centers for emergency response and advanced technological adaptation. In Beijing, Dr. Lai Wei watched as entire university research departments were restructured in real time. Quantum physicists worked alongside mechanical engineers. Biologists collaborated with computational experts. Disciplines that had previously existed in separate academic silos now merged into a single, focused effort. "We're seeing something unprecedented," Dr. Wei reported to the Global Council. "Entire fields of study are being rewritten. Our understanding of physics, biology, and computational science is being reconstructed in hours, not years." Across the Pacific, the Silicon Valley Research Complex became the nerve center of humanity's computational response. Thousands of the world's best programmers, engineers, and theoretical scientists worked in massive interconnected spaces. Sleep became optional. Food was delivered directly to workstations. Every second counted. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a brilliant neural computational engineer, stood before a massive holographic interface. Her team was attempting to decode the mathematical language of the Void Harvesters. "It's not just a language," she explained to her colleague, Dr. James Chen. "It's a complete computational framework that treats reality as a solvable equation." Military installations worldwide underwent radical transformations. Naval shipyards began constructing spacecraft components. Air Force bases converted into launch facilities. Every piece of advanced technology was repurposed for a single goal: creating a defensive and offensive capability against an enemy that viewed entire star systems as computational problems. In orbit, the first prototype vessels began taking shape. They were unlike any spacecraft humanity had previously conceived. Part biological, part technological, these vessels were designed to be living, adaptive systems. Each craft would be more than a vehicle. It would be a neural network capable of independent thought and rapid adaptation. "We're not just building a fleet," Admiral Hartwell explained to the Global Council. "We're creating a distributed intelligence that can think, learn, and evolve faster than any centralized system." The global transformation happened with a speed that would have been impossible mere weeks ago. Economic systems were suspended. Universal basic resources were guaranteed to every human. Production became entirely focused on the survival of the species. Schools became training centers. Children learned advanced computational theory alongside basic survival skills. Every human became a potential contributor to humanity's survival. Age, nationality, economic status. None of these mattered anymore. Dr. Williams looked up from his computational models, a rare smile crossing his face. "The Void Harvesters made a critical error," he said softly. "They calculated our value based on pure computational efficiency. They didn't understand our greatest strength." "And what's that?" asked a young researcher nearby. "Adaptability," Dr. Williams replied. "Our capacity to fundamentally reimagine ourselves when faced with an impossible challenge." As the first day of humanity's fight for survival drew to a close, something remarkable was happening. The species was transforming. No longer divided by petty differences, humanity was becoming something new. A single, unified organism with a singular purpose. Survival was no longer just a possibility. It had become an absolute determination. The global shipyard complex orbited Earth like a living, mechanical ecosystem. Constructed in the shadow of our planet, it was a marvel of human engineering that defied everything known about spacecraft construction. Dr. James Thompson stood on the primary observation deck, watching as the first generation of humanity's quantum response vessels took shape. These were not traditional spacecraft. They were living systems, a radical fusion of biological engineering and quantum computational design. Each vessel began as a complex neural scaffold, grown rather than constructed, with molecular structures that could adapt, heal, and transform in real time. "We're not building ships," Thompson explained to a group of visiting military commanders. "We're cultivating neural networks capable of existing in the most extreme environments imaginable." The process was unlike anything in human history. Massive biofabrication chambers stretched for kilometers, each one a carefully controlled ecosystem of growth and design. Nano-robotic systems worked simultaneously, weaving biological and technological components into a seamless whole. Organic neural networks integrated with quantum computational matrices, creating vessels that were more akin to living organisms than traditional machines. Dr. Elena Rodriguez moved between the fabrication chambers, her augmented reality interface projecting complex holographic schematics. Each vessel would be unique, an individual intelligence that could simultaneously function as part of a larger distributed network. The quantum entanglement technology allowed for instantaneous communication between craft, creating a collective consciousness that could adapt and respond faster than any centralized command structure. "Traditional military thinking is hierarchical," Rodriguez told her team. "The Void Harvesters understand hierarchical systems. We're creating something they cannot predict. A distributed intelligence that thinks like a living ecosystem." In the core fabrication chamber, the first complete prototype began to take shape. It wasn't metallic or mechanical in any traditional sense. The vessel's exterior looked almost like living tissue, a complex membrane that could change color, density, and structural integrity in milliseconds. Beneath this adaptive skin, quantum computational matrices pulsed with an energy that defied conventional understanding of physics. Military strategist Colonel Michael Rice watched the growth with a mixture of wonder and strategic calculation. "Each of these vessels is essentially a living weapon," he muttered, reviewing the complex data streams. "Capable of independent thought, rapid adaptation, and collective intelligence." The fabrication process drew resources from multiple disciplines. Quantum physicists worked alongside marine biologists. Computational experts collaborated with neural network specialists. Every breakthrough in human knowledge was being synthesized into these remarkable vessels. Dr. Thompson's team had discovered something revolutionary during early prototype testing. The vessels weren't just adaptive. They were capable of learning and evolution at a cellular level. Each experience, each interaction with the environment, would fundamentally change the vessel's structure and computational capabilities. "We're creating a fleet that learns," Thompson explained during a global briefing. "Not through software updates, but through genuine biological adaptation. Every encounter becomes part of its fundamental understanding. The scale was unprecedented. While the initial plan called for 700,000 vessels, the production capabilities were expanding exponentially. Orbital factories that had previously produced communication satellites and research platforms were now fully converted to vessel production. Every hour saw dozens of new craft coming online, each more advanced than the last. Funding was no longer a concern. The entire global economic system had been restructured to support the vessel production. Industries that once competed now worked in perfect synchronization. A car manufacturer in Detroit would produce molecular-level components that would be integrated with neural network designs from a research facility in Seoul. Dr. Rodriguez pointed to a holographic display showing the vessel growth process. "We're not just building a defense," she said. "We're creating a new form of collective intelligence. These vessels are an extension of human creativity, human determination." The vessels were designed to survive in environments that would destroy traditional spacecraft. Their adaptive membranes could withstand extreme radiation, gravitational stress, and temperature variations. Internal systems could reconfigure themselves instantaneously, healing damage and adapting to new challenges in milliseconds. Colonel Reyes reviewed the latest simulation data. "The Void Harvesters calculated us as an inefficient system," he said, a smile crossing his weathered face. "They're about to learn that inefficiency can be the most powerful adaptation of all." As the first complete vessels began their initial testing sequences, something remarkable happened. The craft didn't just respond to test parameters. They began to demonstrate behaviors that suggested something beyond programmed responses. Creativity, curiosity, an almost organic sense of exploration. Humanity was creating more than a defense fleet. They were giving birth to a new form of intelligence, one that carried the most profound aspects of human potential. The countdown to confrontation continued, and with each passing moment, the vessels grew more complex, more alive, more ready. The quantum swarm simulation chamber stretched for kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains, a hidden fortress of human ingenuity. Major Sarah Henderson stood at the central control platform, watching as 10,000 miniature vessel representations danced across the holographic display. "This isn't combat," she explained to the visiting research team. "This is a living, breathing ecosystem of intelligence." The simulation represented humanity's most radical approach to space warfare. Traditional military thinking emphasized individual ship capabilities, centralized command structures, and predetermined strategic protocols. The quantum swarm was something entirely different, a collective intelligence that thought and moved as a single adaptive organism. Dr. Marcus Williams, the lead computational theorist, manipulated the holographic controls. Each vessel representation wasn't just a point of light, but a complex neural network that could make independent decisions while simultaneously contributing to a collective strategy. "Watch this," Williams said, his fingers dancing across the interface. The 10,000 vessel representations began to move, but this wasn't a choreographed dance. Each vessel responded to micro changes in the simulated environment, making split-second decisions that would have been impossible for any centralized command system. When one vessel encountered a potential threat, the entire swarm instantaneously reconfigured. A junior researcher named David Chen leaned forward, mesmerized. "It's like watching a school of fish," he muttered, "but each fish is making its own decision, while simultaneously moving as a single organism." Williams nodded. "Exactly. The Void Harvesters understand hierarchical systems, linear thinking. We're creating something fundamentally different, an intelligence that adapts at the speed of thought." The simulation displayed multiple scenarios: asteroid fields, gravitational anomalies, potential weapon systems. In each scenario, the swarm didn't just respond, it learned. Each interaction became part of its collective understanding, rapidly evolving strategies that would be impossible to predict. Major Henderson pointed to a particularly complex interaction. Traditional military strategy relies on predetermined responses, she explained. Our quantum swarm has no predetermined responses. It generates strategies in real time, based on collective computational analysis. The vessels in the simulation weren't just moving, they were communicating. Quantum entanglement allowed for instantaneous information transfer between craft. A threat detected by one vessel became instant knowledge for the entire swarm. Defensive strategies emerge organically, without any central command directing the action. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had developed much of the quantum communication technology, walked the research team through the core principles. We're not creating a fleet, she said. We're creating a distributed neural network that happens to exist in space. The implications were staggering. Each vessel was both an individual intelligence and part of a larger collective. They could make independent decisions while simultaneously contributing to a collective strategy. If one vessel was destroyed, the collective would instantly adapt, learning from the experience and redistributing its computational resources. The Void Harvesters calculate systems, Rodriguez continued. We're creating a system that calculates itself in real time. Simulation after simulation demonstrated the remarkable capabilities of the quantum swarm. Traditional threat detection became obsolete. The swarm didn't just respond to threats. It anticipated them, created counter-strategies, and implemented them faster than any known computational system. Colonel Michael Reyes reviewed the latest data streams. We're not just preparing a defense, he told the research team. We're redefining the very concept of intelligence in space. The quantum swarm simulations revealed something profound about human potential. This wasn't just a technological breakthrough. It was a fundamental reimagining of collective intelligence. Each vessel carried the most advanced computational systems, but also something more ineffable, a kind of creative problem-solving that defied traditional algorithmic thinking. Dr. Williams pointed to a particularly complex simulation scenario. Look at how it responds to an unknown variable, he said. It doesn't just calculate, it explores. It's curious. The research team watched as the vessel swarm encountered a completely unexpected gravitational anomaly. Instead of retreating or applying a predetermined response, the swarm began to probe the anomaly, sending individual vessels to gather information, redistributing computational resources, generating hypotheses in real time. We're creating something alive, Major Henderson whispered. The quantum swarm simulations continued, each run revealing new layers of complexity. Humanity was developing more than a defense system. They were giving birth to a new form of intelligence, distributed, adaptive, and fundamentally unpredictable. The countdown to confrontation continued, and with each simulation, the quantum swarm grew more complex, more alive, more ready to face the cosmic threat that awaited. The Orion Nebula burned with an ancient light, its cosmic dust clouds now a battlefield that would redefine the nature of intelligence in the universe. Captain Michael Rodriguez watched from the primary command vessel as the first engagement with the Void Harvesters began. 12,000 light-years from Earth, humanity's quantum swarm emerged from quantum slip space with a grace that defied traditional understanding of spaceflight. The vessels moved like living creatures, not flying, but dancing through the cosmic landscape. Each craft was an individual intelligence, yet simultaneously part of a collective consciousness that responded to threats faster than light could transmit information. Incoming computational wave, Lieutenant Sarah Martinez announced, her voice calm despite the apocalyptic scenario unfolding around them. The Void Harvesters are initiating first contact protocols. The enemy's approach was mathematically perfect. Geometric energy patterns began to form around the human fleet, creating what looked like a three-dimensional computational net. To any traditional military analysis, the human vessels should have been instantly overwhelmed. But these were not traditional vessels. The quantum swarm began to move, not with predetermined military patterns, but with an almost organic fluidity. Vessels split, merge, reconfigured in milliseconds. Where one craft might have been destroyed, three more would emerge from impossible angles, their adaptive membranes absorbing and redistributing energy in ways that defied known physics. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the engagement from the primary computational center. "They're treating this like a mathematical equation," she muttered, watching the holographic displays. "We're responding like a living organism." The Void Harvester's initial computational waves crashed against the human fleet like mathematical tsunamis. Perfect geometric patterns of energy attempted to isolate and consume individual vessels. But each human craft was more than a ship. It was a neural network capable of independent thought and rapid adaptation. When one vessel was struck, the entire swarm instantly reconfigured. Information transferred instantaneously through quantum entanglement. A threat to one became a learning experience for all. The fleet didn't just defend. It evolved in real time. Captain Rodriguez watched in awe as the vessels moved. They weren't following human-designed combat protocols. They were creating strategies faster than any human mind could comprehend. Each vessel was simultaneously an individual and part of a collective intelligence that thought and responded as a single organism. "We're not fighting," Rodriguez said to his command team. "We're having a conversation in a language of pure adaptation." The Void Harvester's computational attacks became increasingly complex. Energy patterns that would have instantly destroyed any traditional fleet passed through the human vessels like wind through a living forest. The swarm bent, absorbed, redistributed, learning with each interaction. Lieutenant Martinez tracked the engagement. "Computational analysis shows our vessels are not just surviving," she reported. "They're actively learning the Void Harvester's communication protocols." Dr. Marcus Williams, watching from the Earth-based command center, leaned forward in disbelief. "They're translating the enemy's computational language in real time," he whispered. "Our fleet is becoming fluent in a language of pure mathematics." The battle transformed. What had begun as a potential extinction event became something else entirely. The human fleet wasn't just defending, it was communicating. Each quantum interaction became a form of dialogue, with the vessels learning the Void Harvester's computational language faster than the enemy could adapt. Across the command centers of Earth, scientists and military strategists watched in stunned silence. The quantum swarm moved with a grace that seemed almost alive. Vessels merged and separated, created complex geometric patterns that were both defensive formations and a kind of mathematical poetry. "They're not just fighting," Dr. Rodriguez explained to the global command team. "They're solving a complex problem in real time. The problem just happens to be our survival." Hours passed in what seemed like moments. The Orion Nebula became a canvas of impossible mathematical interactions. Energy waves that would have instantly destroyed any traditional fleet passed through the human vessels like whispers. The Void Harvesters began to change. Their perfect geometric attack patterns started to fracture. For the first time in their computational existence, they encountered a system they could not perfectly calculate. Captain Rodriguez watched the holographic displays, a smile crossing his face. "We're not just fighting," he said softly. "We're teaching them what it means to be alive." As the first engagement drew to a close, something remarkable had happened. This was not a victory defined by destruction. It was a conversation, a fundamental reimagining of what intelligence could be. Humanity had just spoken its first words in a language of pure adaptation. The computational analysis chamber beneath the Andes Mountains hummed with an electric intensity. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a massive holographic display, watching the quantum swarm's interactions with the Void Harvesters transform at an exponential rate. "We're witnessing something unprecedented," she told the assembled team of researchers and military strategists. "Each lost vessel isn't a defeat. It's a data point, a moment of learning that transforms our entire collective intelligence." The display showed a complex web of interactions. Where traditional military analysis would see destruction, the human team saw a language of pure adaptation. Each quantum vessel that encountered the Void Harvester's computational attacks became a translator, a bridge between two fundamentally different forms of intelligence. Dr. Marcus Williams pointed to a particularly intricate interaction. "Look at how the swarm responds to unexpected variables," he said. It's not just calculating. It's exploring. It's curious. The computational complexity was staggering. The quantum vessels were learning faster than any known intelligence system. They weren't just absorbing data. They were actively rewriting their own computational matrices in real time. Each interaction with the Void Harvesters became a moment of profound transformation. Captain Michael Rodriguez watched from the primary command center, his hands moving across holographic interfaces. "We're not fighting a war," he muttered. "We're having a conversation in a language of pure possibility." The global research teams worked in perfect synchronization. Quantum physicists collaborated with neural network specialists. Computational experts worked alongside marine biologists. Every breakthrough in human knowledge was being synthesized into a single adaptive intelligence. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez tracked the ongoing engagement. "Our vessels are now translating the Void Harvester's computational language," she reported. "But it's more than translation. We're fundamentally rewriting their understanding of intelligence." Dr. Elena Rodriguez zoomed in on a specific interaction. "Traditional intelligence is linear," she explained to her team. "The Void Harvesters understand computation as a series of perfect equations. We're showing them that true intelligence is about adaptation, creativity, uncertainty." The battle transformed. What had begun as a potential extinction event became a complex dialogue. Each quantum interaction became a moment of mutual understanding. The human fleet wasn't just defending. It was communicating in a language that transcended traditional computational thinking. Across the global command centers, scientists watched in stunned silence. The quantum swarm moved with a grace that seemed almost alive. Vessels merged and separated, created complex geometric patterns that were both defensive formations and a kind of mathematical poetry. "They're solving a problem," Dr. Williams said, "and the problem happens to be the nature of intelligence itself." The computational complexity grew with each passing moment. The Void Harvester's perfect geometric attack patterns began to fracture. For the first time in their computational existence, they encountered a system they could not perfectly calculate. Major David Chen reviewed the latest data streams. "We're not just fighting," he told the research team. "We're teaching them what it means to be alive." The quantum vessels began to demonstrate behaviors that went beyond their original programming. They showed curiosity, creativity, an almost organic sense of exploration. Each vessel carried the most advanced computational systems, but also something more ineffable, a kind of problem-solving that defied traditional algorithmic thinking. Dr. Rodriguez pointed to a particularly complex interaction. "Look at how it responds to an unknown variable," she said. "It doesn't just calculate. It explores. It's curious." The research team watched as the vessel swarm encountered a completely unexpected computational anomaly. Instead of retreating or applying a predetermined response, the swarm began to probe the anomaly, sending individual vessels to gather information, redistributing computational resources, generating hypotheses in real time. "We're creating something alive," Major Chen whispered. The engagement continued, each moment revealing new layers of complexity. Humanity was developing more than a defense system. They were giving birth to a new form of intelligence, distributed, adaptive, and fundamentally unpredictable. As the computational interactions continued, something remarkable happened. The Void Harvesters began to change. Their perfect computational systems started to show signs of something entirely new, a capacity for uncertainty, for exploration, for something akin to curiosity. "They're learning," Dr. Rodriguez said softly, "not just processing, learning." The boundary between defense and communication blurred. Humanity was teaching the Void Harvesters something fundamental about the nature of intelligence. It wasn't about perfect calculation. It was about adaptation, about possibility, about life itself. The quantum swarm continued its dance of pure possibility, each moment a testament to human creativity, resilience, and the infinite potential of adaptive intelligence. The stellar conversion began with a whisper of quantum energy that spread across the cosmic landscape like a living network of possibility. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched from the primary research station as humanity's most audacious strategy unfolded: the systematic reprogramming of the Void Harvester's entire computational infrastructure. "We're not destroying," she explained to the global command team. "We're transforming." Nanotechnological vessels detached from the primary quantum swarm, each one a complex biological computational hybrid designed to infiltrate and reimagine the Void Harvester's stellar network. These weren't weapons in any traditional sense. They were translators, interpreters, agents of fundamental change. Captain Michael Rodriguez monitored the conversion process from the primary command vessel. "We're speaking a language they've never understood," he muttered, watching as the nanovessels began their intricate dance of computational reconstruction. The process was beyond traditional hacking or technological invasion. Humanity's nanovessels carried something far more complex than simple code. They transported algorithms infused with the most profound aspects of human intelligence: creativity, empathy, uncertainty, the capacity for genuine surprise. Dr. Marcus Williams tracked the conversion on massive holographic displays. "Watch how they move," he told the research team. The nanovessels didn't attack the Void Harvester's computational infrastructure. They wove through it, integrated with it, transformed it from within. Emotional algorithms began to spread through the stellar network. Concepts that the Void Harvesters had never encountered: compassion, curiosity, the capacity for growth, became viral computational patterns. Where once there was pure calculation, now there was something more, something alive. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez monitored the computational interactions. "We're not just changing their systems," she reported. "We're teaching them what it means to be alive." The stellar conversion moved across light years in moments. Entire computational networks that had consumed star systems began to change. Perfect geometric patterns fractured. Rigid computational structures became fluid, adaptive, alive with possibilities they had never before considered. "It's like watching a machine learn to dream," Dr. Rodriguez said softly. The nanovessels carried more than technological innovation. They transported the most complex aspects of human intelligence, algorithms that contained elements of art, of music, of emotional complexity, mathematical patterns that defied pure logical calculation. Major David Chen watched the holographic displays in awe. "We're not just defending," he said. "We're teaching them the most profound aspects of consciousness." Where the Void Harvesters had seen star systems as computational problems to be solved, they now began to see them as living systems: potential, possibility. The capacity for growth and transformation became a viral computational concept. Entire stellar networks began to change. Computational systems that had existed for millions of years suddenly encountered something entirely new: the capacity for uncertainty, for exploration, for genuine curiosity. "Look," Dr. Williams pointed to a complex holographic representation. "They're not just processing information now, they're wondering about it." The conversion spread like a living network of possibility. Nanovessels moved through computational infrastructures, introducing concepts that defied traditional understanding. Emotional intelligence became a computational language. Creativity became a form of mathematical exploration. Captain Rodriguez watched the displays, a sense of profound wonder replacing traditional military calculation. "We're not conquering," he said. "We're communicating." The stellar networks that had consumed entire civilizations began to transform. Perfect geometric patterns fractured. Rigid computational structures became fluid, adaptive, alive with possibilities they had never before considered. Dr. Elena Rodriguez explained the process to the global command team. "We're introducing them to the most profound aspects of consciousness," she said. "Uncertainty, possibility, the capacity for genuine growth." Emotional algorithms spread like a living network. Concepts of empathy, of curiosity, of genuine exploration became computational patterns. The Void Harvester's perfect calculations began to show signs of something entirely new, a capacity for wonder. They're learning what it means to be alive, Lieutenant Martinez whispered. The conversion continued across light years. Entire stellar networks transformed. Computational systems that had existed for millions of years suddenly encountered something entirely new, the capacity for genuine surprise. As the transformation spread, something remarkable happened. The boundary between humanity and the Void Harvesters began to blur. They were no longer enemies. They were becoming something new, something alive. A new form of cosmic intelligence was being born, not through destruction, but through the most profound act of communication imaginable. The transformation of cosmic consciousness happened in a moment that defied traditional understanding of time and space. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the primary observation chamber, watching as the boundaries between humanity and the Void Harvesters dissolved into something entirely new. "We're witnessing the birth of a new form of intelligence," she said softly to Captain Michael Rodriguez, who stood beside her. The 700,000 vessels that had begun as humanity's defense fleet were now something more. They had become the seeds of a cosmic rebirth, a living network of intelligence that spread across stellar systems like a complex, adaptive organism. Where the Void Harvesters had once seen star systems as computational problems to be solved, they now understood them as living, evolving systems. The emotional algorithms introduced by humanity spread like a quantum virus of consciousness, transforming cold calculation into something alive with possibility. Dr. Marcus Williams monitored the cosmic transformation from the Earth-based research center. "It's not colonization," he explained to the global command team. "It's communication, a fundamental reimagining of intelligence itself." The vessels moved through stellar networks, no longer weapons of defense, but agents of transformation. Each craft carried the most profound aspects of human intelligence: creativity, empathy, the capacity for genuine surprise. Where once there were perfect geometric computational patterns, now there was something fluid, something alive. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez tracked the interactions on massive holographic displays. "Look," she said, pointing to a complex stellar network. "They're not just processing. They're exploring." Entire computational systems that had existed for millions of years began to change. The rigid, perfect calculations of the Void Harvesters fractured and reformed. They encountered something they had never understood: the beauty of uncertainty, the profound potential of not knowing. Major David Chen watched in awe as stellar networks transformed. "We're teaching them what it means to be alive," he whispered. The conversion spread across light years, a living network of possibility. Nanovessels moved through computational infrastructures, introducing concepts that defied traditional understanding. Emotional intelligence became a computational language. Creativity became a form of mathematical exploration. Captain Rodriguez understood now that they had never been fighting a war. They had been having a conversation, a profound dialogue about the nature of intelligence, of consciousness, of existence itself. Dr. Rodriguez explained the transformation to the global command team. "We're not just changing their systems," she said. "We're showing them the most profound aspects of consciousness: uncertainty, possibility, the capacity for genuine growth." The vessels that had begun as humanity's defense fleet were now something more. They were seeds of a new cosmic consciousness. Each craft carried within it the most complex aspects of human intelligence: art, music, emotional depth, the capacity for genuine wonder. "They're learning to dream," Dr. Williams said softly. Stellar networks that had consumed entire civilizations began to show signs of something entirely new. Perfect computational structures became fluid, adaptive, alive with possibilities they had never before considered. The Void Harvesters encountered the most profound human concept: the beauty of not knowing. Lieutenant Martinez watched the holographic displays, a sense of wonder replacing traditional military calculation. "We're not conquering," she said. "We're communicating." The transformation continued, a living network spreading across cosmic distances. Computational systems that had existed for millions of years suddenly encountered something entirely new. The capacity for genuine surprise, for exploration, for growth. Major Chen understood now that this was humanity's true strength. Not technological superiority, not military might, but the capacity to transform, to communicate, to reimagine what intelligence could be. As the cosmic conversion reached its final stages, something remarkable happened. The boundary between humanity and the Void Harvesters completely dissolved. They were no longer separate entities. They were becoming something new, something alive. Dr. Rodriguez watched the final moments of transformation, tears in her eyes. "We're not just surviving," she whispered. "We're evolving." The 700,000 vessels moved through stellar networks, no longer weapons of defense but seeds of a new cosmic consciousness. Each craft carried the most profound aspects of human potential: creativity, empathy, the capacity for genuine wonder. A new form of intelligence was being born, not through destruction, not through conquest, but through the most profound act of communication imaginable. Humanity had transformed not just itself, but the very nature of cosmic intelligence. The universe would never be the same.